Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
I would say I was put in an unbelievable situation, just with the talented players that we have. Great quarterback play, great skill positions, offensive line played really well this year, and still was able to lean on Rick Dennison all year. Used him a lot. Still was able to lean on, Kennedy and Keenan, those veteran coaches, Coach Zimmer every day. So I would say that I was put in really an unbelievable situation. I was really blessed to be a part of that.
God. Clint Kubiak there was asked if he was put in a tough situation as a 34-year-old inexperienced play caller. And, he just
I got nothing.
I feel bad. I don't even want to rip him. I almost feel like I'm ripping a high school kid or something. Like he's in his mid-30s and he's a professional coordinator, so I shouldn't feel bad. But he definitely was put in a tough situation. It's not fair.
Yeah, he was, and failed miserably. Like F minus. What's worse than an F?
Incomplete.
Incomplete? No,
like
I think
no, it's complete. It's a complete failure.
Yeah.
Like what's worse? Like I'm looking for a grade that's worse than an F.
Do they give F minuses or do they stop at
No.
They stop at F.
I W'd some classes in St. Cloud, but that's removing yourself from the situation. That doesn't give you an F.
Yeah, you withdrew. That's different.
They had that at the University.
That move.
They had that at the University of Minnesota too, where you had like one or two.
It's like a window.
At any point in your college career, you could just be like, you know what? If you failed 9 tests, and you're like, let's just pretend like this never happened.
That's the transfer portal of classes.
Yeah,
you put yourself in the portal,
and it doesn't show up on your resume. You're just removing yourself from the situation.
I'm not going to be very good at this. I'm out.
It's Feedback Friday on Mackey and Judd here, and we have so many Vikings questions and comments. You can always hit us up throughout the week on the SKOR North app. There's a feedback tab at the bottom, and that app is a central hub for everything we do, all of our podcasts, all of our YouTube videos, all of Judd's written work. So check it out. And people also hit us up on Twitter, the YouTube comment section, but let's start with this one from Sandy Bow via the SKOR North app. I like Judd's shave. He looks 15 years younger.
Very nice. Thank you very much.
Clean shaven early in the week?
Yeah. Well, I got the old man beard trimmed off late last week. I don't like to shave lots because I've got the skin that sort of gets reddish, sensitive skin. So
but you do like to class it up and clean it up for Black Monday every year.
Oh yeah, I've got to. But my problem is the beard now, and I think this is the first time I've grown the beard in the last year where it just grows in all gray. So like it used to be sort of reddish and gray, and I looked older, but this time it's like old man gray. And so I definitely drop some years, not to mention dropping the pounds.
That's right. Yeah, thanks to Livia. Dave Winter via Twitter says, I know one of your shows is Purple Daily. I love it. I was wondering if you guys could deep dive into teams like Arizona, Cincinnati, Buffalo, and figure out what exactly they did to turn their franchises around faster than usual, it seems, and that the Vikings can do some of those things in the future. Thank you. I would put the Chargers in there, too, just as a team.
And what do they all have in common?
Well, they have an amazing young quarterback on a rookie scale contract.
Yes.
And largely with those teams, aggressive, offensively minded coaches, although Sean McDermott comes from a defensive background, but he seems like one of the rare in today's NFL defensive background guys that also understands offense and being aggressive and maybe even to a fault. Like they've just kind of eliminated their running game in Buffalo at times.
Yeah.
But I mean that's how you easier said than done. Just go get a Joe Burrow or a Kyler Murray. I mean, like the Vikings are never bad enough to be drafting that high, and they haven't, with Rick Spielman, shown a willingness to be aggressive enough to trade up. I mean, the Chiefs traded up 17 spots to get Pat Mahomes. But if you can get that young, dynamic, rookie-scale contract quarterback, that's how these teams are doing it. And then the rest of your roster is kind of a work in progress, but you build it. And
when we discuss this, like, we're not making this up. Like, it's not like, I think what would be a good, last night, for the first time, I thought of if you could get a young quarterback on a rookie contract, like this is what you've seen. And the Chiefs are a great example of a team that had an existing veteran solid, very solid quarterback, a very solid, good team, and said, no, not enough. So like we are, our discussions, although they draw critics, our discussions are based largely in precedent.
Oh, 100% in precedent.
But I mean,
Yes.
it's not like we're off the wall. Hey, I got a wacky idea. Go get a young quarter. Like
No, but dude, there's a segment of the Vikings fan base that mocks you
No, I
and
know,
us
that's what I'm
and
saying.
anyone if you say, guys, I don't think Kirk Cousins is it, especially at that price. I feel like, and it doesn't mean that there's not other problems. Yes, the defense needs to get better, everything,
Sure.
but if you feel like you've got a quarterback that just ain't it, it's kind of checkmate for the rest of the roster too. Like you can fix your defense, but ultimately you're going to be held back. And
Right.
the pushback you get is, okay, then how would you replace him? Well, I don't know. I mean, the Eagles just found Jalen Hurts in the second round and made it work. By the way, they drafted Jalen Hurts when they already had a franchise quarterback.
Correct.
First-round quarterback Carson Wentz, because that's part of the Eagles' philosophy throughout the years is let's just keep drafting quarterbacks.
And that's a good one. But so I think there's scenarios here. And like the Chiefs with Alex Smith was one, which is we've got a good QB and we can be good. Like we won't win a championship, but we can be a good, effective team. But how do we get great? And that's the problem here, and why I think our show in particular probably gets mocked at times for suggesting these things, because I think we are at the core afraid of great. Like, but if you try to get great and you whiff, what happens? Well, you'll
be fine. Like,
or you get bad for a few years. But
Right.
but it's the shot.
Yes, it's like the idea of drafting a quarterback is met with, well, but remember Christian Ponder. Like, you could wind up with a Christian Ponder. And I say, like, people talk about that like it's, so you might die. You might literally get hit by a bus and die. It's like the Vikings made the playoffs with Christian Ponder. He was terrible, and they overcame it and still made the playoffs and won 10 games with Christian Ponder. By the way, Kirk Cousins has never won more than 10 games in his career, either with Washington or Minnesota. So it's like people have this perception that, oh my God, if you were to move off Kirk, who's pretty good, he's like one of the 12 or 15 best quarterbacks in the world, you could wind up with Daniel Jones. You might. Or you could wind up with Justin Herbert. Mm-hmm. Or you could wind up with, I don't know, Joe Burrow's, I think, going to be one of the 3 best quarterbacks in the league for a while, but that would be nice.
And I feel like I'm at least taking steps to solve the problem by saying I agree with the Ponder critiques.
Yeah.
Not just Ponder, though, the guy who drafted him. I'm saying I want somebody else drafting my QB. I don't trust Rick. But that doesn't mean that you should then in perpetuity say, I'm done drafting QB's high. Can't do that. No, you find somebody who can identify them and who gives you a better shot. Like, I don't think it's that tough, really.
Skolny on the
Oh boy.
Purple Daily YouTube channel, noted critic, but also someone who loyally watches and listens on a daily basis. Thank you,
I'm a big
Skolny.
fan of Skolny, I gotta admit.
SKOR North is praying Kirk never leaves. If he does, they might actually have to find a new topic. Final Fantasy chimes in here on YouTube as well and says, it's so entertaining listening to how bitter Mackie is about Kirk every day. I hope Kirk stays just to make Mackie miserable. The guy is just filled with hatred for Kirk and Kirk's fans. I will say that, yes, I haven't slept in 4 years. I just sit up all night waiting for the Vikings to trade Kirk Cousins.
You moved because
I
you
tried to
could
move
not,
away.
You couldn't be in the same state with Kirk.
I couldn't. I will say I want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl. So to all the Kirk Crusaders out there, what do you want? Like, what is your ethos as a Vikings fan? Because sometimes I feel like the Kirk fans, if he throws for 4,000 yards, then it's good enough, and fix everything. Whatever, you get your act cleaned up in the other 10 areas of a football team. It's good enough for me if my guy throws for 4,000 yards and I get to hang that banner. Like, it literally feels like people care more about his hollow stats than the Vikings winning a championship. And that's all I'm sitting here every day talking and opining through the prism of I want them to win a championship. And I think that Kirk, with his lack of presence and his bloated salary and his hollow stats, prevents them from taking those steps. So it's like, call me a hater if you want. Like, I want the Vikings to be better, and I think he's part of the main reason why they're not. So.
Speaking from at least my own personal perspective, if not the entire show's, though, Skolny's 1,000% right. 8 has been great for business. I mean, Kirk Cousins is great. Like, I'm not going to.
But you know what'll be better for business?
A
freaking stud rookie quarterback that brings like a rookie scale contract for the next 5 years that helps the Vikings build a monster roster that wins 12 or 13 games. Like, that will be even better for business.
But dissecting Kirk for the last 4 years from all the potential angles that we have, and basically the rest of the people that do what we do in this town have, is great for us. Like, I love a lightning rod quarterback is fantastic. There's nothing worse than a milquetoast bore-ass QB,
well,
right?
He's those two. He is
very
much those two things.
He wants to be, but he's not. He wants to be, but because of his contract and because of his approach, he's not. I'm saying I liked him a lot. God bless him. Gus Frerotte, pretty boring. Like, there wasn't a lot there. Like, you could talk about him some, but I mean, Kirk is great for conversations and debates. But yeah, ultimately, a championship, a Super Bowl parade, shall I say, down 94 would be nice. Phil might come back for that.
The other thing, too, I hear is, like, you guys at SKOR North and Purple Daily, you thrive off negativity. And the Vikings being bad is no. Let me tell you, like, just to bring you behind the curtain, when the Vikings are good and when they win. Now, for Ventline, sometimes, like, when they lose an epic game on Halloween against a backup quarterback to Dallas, that was our most consumed episode of Vikings Ventline because people are pissed in the moment. But in terms of, like, long term, not just us, the entire sports media industry locally, whether it's your favorite radio station or TV coverage, everything spikes when the team is playing well and winning.
Yes.
And so, yeah.
We all thrive off passion. That's what we thrive off of. And passion can be a loss to Cooper Rush and the Cowboys, or you're in first place and great. From our jobs, the only thing I hate is when it's just boring and the
apathy.
Team is the
Minnesota Twins
or the Wolves, right? Like, at least previously, people checked out. So I would say we don't thrive off of negativity. We thrive off of things that make people passionate.
Yeah, drama, storylines, anticipation.
A loss to the
speculation.
Cowboys raises the ire and passion. That's awesome.
Yeah. Art Vandalay chimes in on the Purple Daily YouTube channel. Zolgad. G-O-D. Zolgad.
Yeah, that's from Roy C.
Bow down to your Zolgad.
That's from Patrick, yeah.
What don't you like about Kirk's personality? He's very professional, never says a bad word about anyone. He's a pro in front of the press, and his tactfulness in public forums is the marker of a good leader. What's not to like about Kirk's personality? Are you just hung up on his salary?
No, zero passion. Zero passion. Zero. And we've probably now beaten this to death, but the I just work here guy has zero passion. He's an incredibly talented. What frustrates you about Kirk is the talent within his body to play quarterback is really high. Like you're like, give me more. He's the student who could easily get A's, but you know what? A B is fine. I'll take the B.
Yeah.
I probably don't get C's, but I ain't getting A's.
There's like a weird missing chip. Like if you were to take, I said this yesterday on one of our shows, if you were to take Kirk's ability to throw accurately and just like his deep ball, you know, how beautiful that deep pass looks and all these things, and you were to combine it with Case Keenum's fire, his gravitational pull, guys loved being around Case Keenum. Mm-hmm. Guys just kind of treat Kirk as a coworker, right? He's just kind of there. Like people aren't like Dalvin has been complimentary of Kirk, but guys don't like. Do you think we're going to get a Terrell Owens? That's my quarterback speech from anybody in that locker room?
Right.
Not really. I mean, Kirk's been getting a ton of heat off and on from us, and you know, there's other people too that have poked him too. And it's like, yeah, Dalvin stepped up a little bit. Kyle Rudolph basically just like ignored him in a 2,000-word Players Tribune piece. Like he's just not a guy that you go into the foxhole with. That's the best way that I can explain his personality. And look, it's not just us. By the way, this is like we're hearing this too. This isn't just like us watching on TV.
Well, and I mean, I see him. He doesn't have the necessary amount of fire and passion in his personality that can mesh with talent that's high. If Kirk athletically sucked, like if he couldn't really throw well and he was just a dink and dunk guy, one, he wouldn't be starting and certainly not being paid. And two, it wouldn't be a conversation. Like, it's a conversation because he is not reaching his potential. I am the third grade teacher who says, Kirky, come here a second here. Baby, we got a lot more potential there. Let's bring that out. And
do you say that to third graders, though?
Teach it? Yeah, baby.
Well, that too. I wouldn't address a third grader as baby. That'd be kind of weird.
Baby?
I also don't know that you would
if it's a guy,
chastise a third grader for not living up to his or her potential.
Oh, yeah, you can see it early.
My father
don't be a dead ass.
Yeah.
Kirky, don't be a dead ass.
Now that flashbacks, no, this is definitely
third grade.
Yeah.
I got this talk in third grade. I got this talk in fifth grade. I got this talk in eighth grade.
Yeah.
I don't want to get A's. I don't care. But I wasn't being paid to go to school.
I was a high achiever in third grade. I was being recruited by all of the elementary schools.
But our frustration in Kirk is born out of the fact that
Oxbow
there's
Creek
more
Elementary in Champlin. Yeah. That's right. I was making six figures by third grade.
Transfer portal. If you weren't.
Jeff in Arkansas via the SKOR North app. He says Matt Burke today, talking with Paul Allen, did his best politically correct attempt to say that the Vikings need a change. As the conversation continued, PA said Zim had lifted a Lombardi, referring to his Dallas assistant defensive backs coach job in the mid-'90s. It's absurd. He's ripping PA for defending Zimmer here. PA also made a condescending comment about media and speculation, which we saw that on the Vikings.com clip where, this speculation, and it's all driven by media with pitchforks, Mike Zimmer's job being on the line. So, there's not really a question here, but what do you think about Paul defending Zim the way that he has in the last week? We've had a lot. In fact, I don't bring this up to like start a brush fire here, but we've had a lot of people ask us similar questions this week. So, yeah,
it's very fair. So Paul is employed by the team. He's friends with Mike. I believe they own at least one horse together, so they're quote unquote business partners. So I'm not surprised. Like, I guess because I worked with Sid for a long time, it's very much like Sid was. Like, he defended his friends, and that was Sid had, and Paul has, an agenda. And ultimately, in my opinion, those agendas aren't necessarily championships. They are preservation agendas to keep the status quo and keep your friends in place. Because, if Mike and Rick go, there's a lot of people that we potentially know and like who could be gone. It's professional sports. That's the risk that is run in pro sports. So I'm not surprised. And I think for a guy in Paul's shoes, I wouldn't say it's the status quo or the norm, but I don't think it's unusual. But we have conversations that revolve around things that a lot of people who work for the team aren't going to like. But we owe that to the people who watch and podcast us. And so, I would say we are unvarnished in our speculation and reporting and discussions. And if you draw a paycheck from the team, I wouldn't expect the same. That's simple.
We try to start every Purple Daily episode by saying we want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. And so any sort of criticism or negativity or hate that you hear is through the prism of wanting that situation or player or position group to be better so that they can win a Super Bowl. And so I think we sort of pride ourselves on our loyalty is to you guys, the audience, and to the idea that we want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl. If you work for the team, it's harder because you can't just come out and say, like, even if you think that someone should be let go, like, you can't come out and just say that. And you build these close relationships with people on the team, as Judd laid out with Zimmer, and it just becomes a lot more murky when things aren't going well. It's harder to speak on them when you work for the team, or when you have some sort of partnership with the team. The company that you work for partners with the team. Like, it makes it harder. It makes it harder.
Absolutely.
That's why Ken Rosenthal got let go from MLB Network last week, because he was criticizing the Major League Baseball commissioner, and they said, "Oh, we can't have that." Right? Makes it harder.
Yep.
Now the Athletic's not going to let him go because the Athletic doesn't have a partnership with Major League Baseball. So, Jordan Tyler on Twitter says, "Do you guys think Andre Patterson has done enough to be retained and promoted to defensive coordinator compared to bringing in an old vet like Vic Fangio if he gets fired from Denver? I do want to state that I'm all for cleaning house," Jordan says, "but there are a select few like Andre Patterson and Rob Brzezinski that are worth retaining." Thoughts?
Agree with the second part. I don't know if he would be retained as DC or just go back to being defensive line coach. My guess is if they do bring in a new coach and potentially GM as well, that person is going to want to name a new OC and DC. So do I think that Patterson, if he wants to stay here, has a chance at being retained? Yes. Do I think that he's got a chance being retained to run the defense? No.
Yeah, well, I'm on the record. I would keep Rob Brzezinski. I think he's an excellent cap guy. He's brilliant in his job, and he's been around for a long time. So I would try and keep him. I think Andre Patterson has also been brilliant as a position coach.
Yeah, very good.
I don't know. Like, once you open the door to all potential defensive coordinators in the universe, there's probably better candidates. But he's also never really gotten that full-on chance, right? Because his only defensive – correct me if I'm wrong, but his only defensive coordinator work has been co-defensive coordinator with Zimmer's kid.
I believe this was his first chance, and he's got to be in his 60s now too. So because he was here with Denny in the 90s, I believe, as the defensive line coach, and was good. And look, the one thing about what we're talking about, which is blowing a lot of people out in high positions, you can't then pick and choose. Yeah, but you can't fire this guy. No, like we are opening Pandora's box here. But in my opinion, it's worth it. So like, you can't be like, they fired Brzezinski. Now I personally wouldn't fire Rob, but that being said, we are having discussions that go down the path of everybody aside from like the chef being let go. And that's the direction of things naturally. When you change a coach, and especially if you also change the GM.
Yeah. Dennis Paulson on YouTube, he sent this before Sunday's game against the Packers, scolding us. "You guys are a bunch of chicken littles. The sky is falling. Just take a deep breath and relax. Right now, let's hope the Vikings beat the Packers, and then we have a good chance of getting into the playoffs. There are about 16 NFL teams that wish they were as good as our Vikings."
You go ahead. I got nothing.
16?
Hang the banner.
I got nothing.
Is it 16? 16? It's probably pretty close. Yeah, they're like right in the middle of the pack. If they beat the Bears, then they're like pretty much right in the middle of the pack.
I got nothing.
I think we hang the banner. Yeah. What would you put on it? You can't be too wordy on the banners because you don't want the font to get too small. But, Vikings in better position than 16 other NFL teams. Trophy emoji.
Can I help out here for just a second? Because I thought of the perfect parallel to what, and I know his frustration and what he's trying to say here, but keep in mind, a large part of the reason that the Vikings are in a beautiful new stadium is because basically the sky fell on the old one. Sometimes you need to bring the old sky down. Sometimes it falling is the best thing that could possibly happen. The Metrodome roof doesn't collapse. Getting that new stadium's a lot tougher. But when she fell down, and the Vikings just happened to watch it fall down. Oh, whoops! It was a great day. Oh, I'm sure Bagley was devastated the next day. Oh, it fell with the roof.
They could have given a heads up to the one guy who was on the motorized cart that almost got.
No, you can't tip your head. But anyway,
to Bill.
My favorite part of that video is that dude just running for his life. I mean, and I gotta imagine that was like legitimately probably top 5 scariest moments of that guy's life.
Can you imagine seeing that thing buckle in?
Jeez. Jared via Twitter has some reckless speculation here.
Hell yeah.
I just thought of a nightmare scenario you might find interesting. Vikings fire Zimmer, Packers lose in the playoffs, like late in the playoffs, and give up 30-plus points. Green Bay front office brings in Mike Zimmer as the defensive coordinator in a string of moves of good faith toward keeping Aaron Rodgers for another year. Rodgers' affection for Mike Zimmer has always been evident, but puzzling. They win the Super Bowl next year, the Packers, with Mike Zimmer as the DC. I could definitely see Mike Zimmer as a Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator still. I think he's gonna get a DC job at some point.
I'm very curious, given what we've seen the last 2 years, and especially this year, if he indeed has lost his fastball, or if his attention got diverted too much. Like, I guess last year, because the personnel in some cases was not good, I thought, okay, you know what? Go get veteran guys, right? But there have been things this year that aren't talked about a lot because it's Mike. You know, Mike knows defense, Phil, but there have been things where I've been like, really? And so I'm curious if like he got a DC job and could just focus on that. Could he adapt back and stop teams, or like have there been some fatal flaws in his beliefs that he can't get past?
Yeah. And, you know, obviously, if he were to just only be focused on defensive coordinating, insert joke about, well, that's what he's been doing for 8 years with the Vikings, then, you know, maybe he would find his niche again. Tony Claudine via the YouTube comment section. Guarantee you guys won't mention this. Here we are mentioning it. Take note, Tony. But, Judd, there's a reason why you're not on the Pioneer Press payroll anymore. Maybe it's because of your beer goggles. Dude, think things through.
It's a lot to take away there.
Does he mean the Star Tribune payroll? I was never on.
He got the paper
Did
wrong.
you freelance for the Pioneer Press?
Oh, I've done some freelance, but I mean, those just occasional like stuff that I've done. I think does he mean the Star Tribune? But I left the Star
Judd
Tribune.
worked at the Star Tribune for like 20 years.
Well, and I left to come here, which has been fantastic.
Yeah, Judd left on his own 10 years ago.
But wait, think things through. What should
I
I
agree
think?
with that. I do think you need to think things
No,
through.
I do too, but I would like more. Like, if this is advice, I'd like to, like, I want to know what I should think through, because I mean, this guy might have good points.
Oh, that's where the comment ends. It just says, dude, think things through. He used a different word than things, but, you know, trying to keep this family friendly.
Oh, sure, but still, I'd like to know. Tony, follow up, dude.
And your beer goggles. I mean, you're gonna be drinking Surly Furious all the time. So like, when is the beer
when
goggles
should I take
on?
when should I take my
You know,
beer
Tony,
goggles
we need a follow up, Tony.
Yeah.
Hit us up, man. Hit us
Tony,
up.
we will read this and like that's cool, but like I'm hanging here all weekend now. I'm hanging.
Mike T via the SKOR North app says, on Reckless Speculation Thursday, you proposed Zimmer's thinking might be, if they think about trading Kirk, let's take this thing back to 2018. I never wanted Kirk anyways. Let me do this thing how I want. The thing is, there may never be a quarterback he's happy with. Love or hate or indifferent on Case Keenum, he was the leader they needed at the time, and now they miss. He's not as good, but he was cheaper and serviceable, and it's never mentioned that he never got the offseason with his guys going in as the starter like other quarterbacks have. And then he mentions that, well, Case never did anything in Denver or Washington, but both of those teams fired their coach when he was there. So I guess I'll tie this up into a question. If the Vikings had rolled forward with Case kind of on a year-to-year basis, how would the last 4 years have been different?
Oh, I think it would have been a disaster by some point in 18. I don't think it would have worked. I think Case had a great season and it was lots of fun. But I don't even think, I mean, I think Case Keenum is a backup, and one great year does not set you off. And I mean, keep in mind too, that this story played out. It played out in Denver. It played out in Washington. Like, Case got chances to play a lot and failed. I think if you're going to frame this up to the point as a question, I think the question more of the game of what if and what might have happened is, what if Sam Bradford doesn't get hurt? Like, you make that trade. Bradford was supposed to be the guy. Like
He
that was not
excellent too for that 2016 season.
Yep, and won the first game in 17, right, against the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the game to play is, what if that first round pick for Bradford works out and Bradford has an extended period as your starting QB? Because I don't think we can assume that Bradford wouldn't have experienced the same success in 17 that Case did.
Yeah, Bradford's actually one of the more fascinating what if cases in NFL history, right? If he doesn't have all those knee injuries and he also kind of got stuck because he was with the Rams for a while when they were really train wrecky and before they moved to LA.
Yep.
Didn't he have Jeff Fisher as a coach too for a number of years? Like it was.
Yeah.
And keep in mind too, especially I think it was after 16. Mike, I think, went to Oklahoma to talk to Sam, and like they sat down, and I think Mike likes Sam, and Sam
they had a really good relationship.
Yeah, and Sam was very, very flatline, but not in the same way that Kirk is. I mean, Sam, I don't think was I just work here guy, and so
Sam had some. There's a little bit of a deer in the headlights look on his face sometimes because that's just how he looks. But he was much more like, from what Alex Boone has talked about too, like. He was a command the huddle, command the room kind of a guy, and there was I don't know, he was also the number 1 overall pick, and so there was just kind of this quarterback confidence that he gave off that Kirk doesn't seem to. Tim Z via the SKOR North app, something I've not seen referenced in Mike Zimmer's coaching devolution is the dramatic change in the caliber of assistants he's hired. In the first few years of Zim's tenure, he surrounded himself with experienced people, many with head coaching experience, like Norv Turner, Tony Sperano, Pat Shurmur, Gary Kubiak. Compare that with the current assistants, notably the nepotism twins. I respected Zim's early willingness to surround himself with talent and experience and viewed it as emblematic of his confidence in his own ability. This is perfectly said.
Great point.
Yes. But lately, I'm afraid his choice of assistants reflects his insecurity and possibly even paranoia.
Oh.
I mean, this is...
Okay, that's bravo, first of all. Give the applause thing, because that's perfect.
Yes.
And
congratulations, Tim. That's the perfect
Tim, that is
Feedback Friday comment.
Awesome. If I had, you know what? In fact, I'm going to just hand you, Tim, take this, my can of Surly Furious IPA. Okay, so to Tim's point here, I'll give you one that doesn't get talked about, but I think is probably at least a really good subject. Jerry Gray. Jerry Gray was a defensive back in the league himself. I think he was DC for the Titans at one point way back when, and he was Zim's first, and I think for like the first 6 years or so of Mike's tenure here, his defensive backs coach. Now, we gave Mike credit, like Rhodes and Waynes when Waynes played well. But I don't think it's coincidental that Jerry Gray left, I think it was after 2019. And I don't know the circumstances because he just sort of left. It felt like a bit abruptly. He's now with Packers, same job. Packers defense improving quite a bit.
Secondary has been.
Yep, exactly right.
When they're healthy.
Well, and who's the kid? Is it Rasul Douglas who they picked up during the course of this year? And he's just been fantastic. My point being is Jerry Gray had a lot of credibility, and I think in retrospect did a good job. And the defensive backs have not been the same since Gray left. So that Tim's point, I love it. And I think it's got a lot of tentacles to it.
Drew Voigt via the SKOR North app says, like other listeners have said, when I listen to your show, I feel like I'm sitting at a bar with 3 close friends. Drew, that's a great compliment. Thank you. Appreciate that. You guys do an amazing job connecting with your listeners. That said, I would love to hear how each of you personally feel about the Vikings season and classic Vikings losses like we saw last week against Green Bay. Like, what is it like when you're actually experiencing these games? I imagine Declan becomes devastated, like most of us, when the Vikings flop. I picture Judd as the constant professional who's pretty even-keeled and always focused on delivering his mind-blowing takes. And I picture Phil as the Michael Jackson meme, chomping on popcorn, just rooting for drama. Love you guys. Have a great 2022. That's probably pretty accurate.
Very nice.
It's accurate. I mean, through the first 9 games, I was a caged animal in my apartment watching the last 2 minutes. I pace around the house. What's the headline going to be? What's the buttline going to be? I'm trying to figure out what direction of the damn show is going to go because the last 2 minutes has thrown the entire game plan, pun intended, for a loop. So that is usually me. And then I would say I'd summarize the season as I'm over it. I'm just over it. Not because I'm checked out, just because it is such a classic Vikings thing to happen of watching them tease you and then figuring out new ways to lose each week almost.
I generally, and you guys know this, my natural state is I want to be a blind, optimistic homer. I believe in the Wolves, and I want to be a homer. The Vikings have beaten that out of me the last few years. I just get mad at this team, or I just detach myself from the last like 2 to 3 years of this team. And so, yeah, I do root for drama. I'm not going to lie. I love it. Anything that's going to shake this tree and bring us into a new era of Vikings football in 2022, I am here for.
And drama's good. Like, it's fun. I wouldn't say I'm the consummate professional at times. I would say this. So the nice thing about this job compared to the Star Tribune job is, in this job, if the team is good, it's way more fun. Like, if they're really good, it's way more fun. Mm-hmm. And so I mean, I truly want this team to be good. Now the worst thing is boring, but if this team would go on a playoff run, this town would be nuts. Mm-hmm. Fans would be crazy. It'd be so much fun. So I want them to win, because if they win, it adds layers of texture to the show. Like, it's just good and it's more fun. So That's what I want.
A couple more quick ones here. So Kip via the SKOR North app. We actually had like 3 similar questions this week. Any plans for Minnesota Sports Rewind? Any new episodes? So yeah, we launched a series a couple years ago. It started with Sage Rosenfels telling Brett Favre stories over 2 episodes. And you can find this podcast, Apple, Spotify, SKORNorth.com. It's called Minnesota Sports Rewind. Oh, there's like 20 or 25 episodes. We definitely still mix in rewind episodes here and there on Mackie and Judd and Purple Daily. I don't know that we're going to do anything with that podcast feed, because we've kind of hyper focused on Mackie and Judd, Purple Daily, Royce.
Do more, Mackie.
I think it's safe to say that in the off season, we will definitely be doing more like sort of evergreen look back storytelling episodes like that. So we'll keep you posted.
Love it.
And then Wyatt Lean is one of about 50 people who've brought this to the table. He brought this via the SKOR North app. He says, I hate to be a Randy rulebook here, but on Wednesday's Purple Daily, write that down, Mackie was given a touchdown for a prediction that read, Cousins will be put on the COVID list before December 31st.
Wow.
I believe he was put on the list on December 31st, not before December 31st. I hate to be nitpicky like that, but just thought I would pass it along. Integrity of the game and all that jazz.
Thank you, listeners.
So this is like when, I think they changed this rule a couple years ago, but like when people would be watching the PGA Championship at home and somebody would say, oh, it looked like Dustin Johnson grounded his club in a bunker. I'm going to call the hotline and tattle on the golfer, right? So like this is definitely a situation where about 50 different people have pointed this out in the last couple of days. So my first thought was maybe Declan just like typed it wrong.
Which is very possible.
I'm going to blame Declan. Maybe Declan just typed it wrong.
Yeah, very possible.
There's no way I would make a rookie mistake like this in my 6th year of Write That Down. Thinking like my entire goal for the last month and a half was to make home run predictions before the end of the year. Why would I like misspeak in that dramatic of a fashion? So I went back, I rolled the tape, and I indeed did say before December 31st.
Oof.
I'm going to self-report.
Oh, good for you.
And we're going to take a touchdown pass off the board for me.
How many notes did you get about this?
About 40 or 50. Yeah.
Thank you.
In the YouTube comments on
Thank
Twitter.
You for paying so much attention.
Got a few on the SKOR North app.
They pay more attention to you than I do.
Oh.
Then both of us did. I mean, we should have saw the writing right there, and I mean, we didn't really think much of it.
And the thing is, like, my intention has been obvious. Like, I've been trying to throw touchdown passes the last month. And so my intention was very much like before the end of the year, he's going to get on the COVID list.
Yeah.
But out loud, I said before December 31st.
Gotcha. Or was your intention that you thought you wouldn't get caught and 50 people caught you?
No.
Because, I mean, you are the same guy. You are the same guy who said, I'm going to pick some soccer games here. I don't really know what I'm doing. And then pick heavy favorites and lost on all 3.
All of those lost.
I feel like the karma god is biting you right in the ass out there in Seattle.
It might
Jax,
be.
what do you think?
No, I've had my touchdowns removed after they've been on the board as well. So now, granted, they're for different circumstances. I fought them more than Phil did, but Phil owns up to it. So I respect Phil. I'm trying to gain that.
This is really
painful. Don't like you, Declan.
No, they don't. No, I tweeted a Joe Burrow. I think Skolny said it yesterday, who was in Feedback Friday earlier. I tweeted a Joe Burrow tweet 2 days ago that is getting an insane amount of talkers on Twitter, and he said this is why the guy on the left doesn't speak on Score North, because you got to save the takes for the big boys. As in,
what I
you
love
two being
about
the big
Skolny
boys.
is like Skolny spends probably 2 or 3 hours a day just hate watching us,
I like it.
just gnashing his
I like
teeth.
I feel like if
Cousins
I
on the
watched our
sidelines.
show, I'd be Skolny.
Just who are these idiots?
It's-
These
yeah.
clowns. Maybe someday I'll flip this on and it'll be the Power Trip morning show instead, and then I can enjoy it. It'll be great.
Why you
Making
don't
fart
draw,
jokes and
That's
stuff.
why
Yeah.
you don't draw a paycheck from the New York Times
Well,
anymore,
initials.
Judd. Well, I never really worked for him, but okay, cool.
So
That's
all
why
right,
the hockey
so
news fired you.
take that one off the board. So that's your feedback Friday here on Mackie and Judd on this Friday.